Okay, welcome back to Chat with BR Coaches, guys. We have Coach Melina, Coach Joao. Hello, guys.
Hello guys.
And yeah, we have been doing this cycle of arts, let's say, into the art of coaching, obviously. So we spoke about a little bit of swimming at the beginning, but it was much more into the challenges topics. And then we spoke about the art of cycling with Coach Bojan, and then the art of running with Coach Joao. And today is the time of the art of swimming, Coach Melina, which is the aspect here. All right, so we are going to talk about the art of swimming, and we are going to have some live questions from our athletes who have been asking them. So we'll see what it comes out. And yeah, just to introduce the topic, we have seen that it's pretty common perception from the athlete that, especially age groupers, the swimming, it's a misconception that the swim is not important enough because if you're doing a full distance, it's only 5% of the time. So the focus on swimming is not as it should be. Okay, for a swimmer, this one is like pain in the chest because obviously you like the athletes to focus on also on this discipline. Swimming has a huge blend, let's say, of things that make a triathlete a better swimmer. Which can you make a list real quick of the more important for you, and then I will ask the same question to Joao. What is this? Many things in the swim.
Well, I'll probably say one of the first things is got to be confidence in the water, and I know that sounds like an obvious thing to say that if you're going to do this, you have to be relatively happy in the water. But you've got to be confident in open water, and you've got to be confident with lots of people around you. So that would probably be the first thing to overcome in your preparation for any tri. Beyond that, you then start to go into the technique of swimming. It doesn't have to be perfect. Learning to swim or sort of trying to perfect your swim as an adult as opposed to a younger athlete is very different. So the technique doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to be efficient. So when you get on the bike, you're not kind of wasted, and you've still got you're relatively fresh enough to hit the other two disciplines. And then if you start to then look into the technique itself, then there's the element of breathing, body position, and actually having power in your stroke. Because I see a lot of swimmers that technically aren't too bad in terms of how the arm is moving through the water, but actually all they're doing is moving the arm through the water without moving water out the way, if that makes sense. The technique isn't too bad, but it's empty, the stroke is empty. So those would probably be the first things for me. How about you?
Yeah, I think, well, I agree with the order of that Coach Melina gave to us, because for me, sometimes being a swimmer as a background, it's hard to remember that the first thing that people have a problem is to feel comfortable in the water, because that's the first thing that I feel when I go in the water is, oh, now I'm comfortable here, this is my game, this is my environment. And then it's really hard sometimes to don't feel comfortable in the water and try to understand a beginner or somebody that never swam before, because for me it was since I'm 4 years old swimming, kind of learning. So then you get somebody that wants to do triathlon and doesn't like the feeling of the face in the water, or like to go in a more situation that maybe you cannot stand up and feel safe, right? So the feeling of being comfortable, I think, if you're not comfortable, you don't learn, right? So that's the problem. I think Melina put perfect the order, and we have to understand that some people are not comfortable in the water. Even if they're swimming and they are doing a half Ironman and they're doing a full Ironman, they are not comfortable in the water, even they are doing the races. That part's still very demanding. One point for me that is a game changer is to understand that the swimming pool, it's an environment that is very controlled, and then the open water in a race, it's an open game. You cannot compare one thing to the other. I think that's very important.
Yeah, if I understand correctly, first is safety, okay, which is body awareness in the open water, which becomes also body awareness in the pool, because now that the open water sessions are not available because the seawater here in Dubai is too hot. Then you need to concentrate a little bit more on the technique side, and then we will refocus on the body awareness in the sea. I think that another good topic, connecting to what you said, is that if you think about the bike, you have an hour on the bike. The learning curve, or an hour running, the learning curve is much, let's say, steeper, because you can benefit much more. Swim, as you were saying, it has all these aspects that you need to focus. So sometimes 1 hour in the water is not too much to achieve, or to feel like you're achieving, and that's probably what is frustrating the athletes, right?
That's true, and I think this is one of the things that those who are coming from a non-swimming background feel the frustration is that to get those improvements in the swim, it takes a lot of time. Whereas, say, if you invested, I don't know, if you suddenly had an extra 2 hours a week to put into your training, if you put those 2 hours into your swim, yes, you could feel more comfortable and become more efficient, but in terms of actual time improvement, it would still be marginal. Whereas if you take those 2 hours and you put them onto your bike training, for example, or onto your run training, from a speed or time perspective in the race, you kind of get more return for your time, if that makes sense. And it is hard in a situation where you're an age grouper and you're trying to balance all sorts of things in your life. It's understandable that you may think, well, this makes a little bit more sense from like an economy sort of perspective and logistics, but it doesn't take away from the fact that you still have to. You can't. You're never going to win a race off the back of the swim. You can certainly lose a race off the back of the swim if you're chasing podium, and you can also mess up your race just off the back of the swim. So it's important that you still do address it, even though it's the shortest part of the race.
Yeah, this time thing is something that I think is crucial, because if you think about it, it's evident in your preparation of the UAE men. You had to spend a lot of time to have a result in the swim. You had to spend like days and days swimming like 15K, 17K, 18K, 20K to get to swim 34K. So there is evident, the relationship between how much you spend in the water and what you achieve. Sometimes for a Alpha Ironman, you don't feel like, okay, but if I swim twice a week, a couple of K, that's what I'm gonna do in the race. But there are, I think, key numbers. I like to look into the 4K, 5K workout per week, where the athlete is gonna switch into a mode where, he has is effectively maximizing his training, and time is, we put technique, body awareness, time, because logistics is a big issue.
Yeah,
But talking with this, okay, we have launched a new service, which is BR Monday Swim, and 7:30 a Blue Wave. Okay, we have a coach session, Coach Melina, or the coaches that are available, and it's for all the levels. What is the minimum requirement for this, for the athletes?
Ideally, they need to be able to swim continuously without stopping at least one length. That is the bare minimum. Depending on your level, you swim anything from 1,800 meters to 3K. So we kind of split them up. We do a little bit of technique work, and we do also focus on either endurance intervals or sprint intervals. So it is for everyone. Everyone does get feedback on their stroke. But then at a certain point we just switch over to the fitness aspect of swimming because the two go hand in hand.
So, very good. Monday evening, 7:30 at Blue Wave. Book your spot. It's not only for BR athletes, but for all the athletes. Book your spot with the front desk at BR. Let's take 30 seconds break.
Good.
To take you to the next level, we have to know two basic metrics, which is where you are now, your base level, and where you are going, your final goal. For this reason, we create a system called BR stages. The BR stages consist in 4 levels. Number 1, fundamentals. Number 2, skills. Number 3, performance. And finally, specialization.
Okay. Welcome back with Chat with BR Coaches, guys. So yes, we had a look at what are the common things that we need to focus when we're talking about swimming for triathletes. So we talked about technique, we talked about body awareness and safety in open water especially, and then the time that people are available for training. Now let's have a look real quick on how at BR we assess the entry level of the athlete. What is the common practice and how we can put an athlete into a beginner or an advanced group, an intermediate. What is the normal practice that we do?
Well, there are many systems of swim coaching around. Like people try to break down the movements, they try to break down the swim movement, they try to break down the distance, and then to kind of create a more systematic teaching approach that people can understand easier what they're doing. Because if you go to the swim, and I think that's the tricky part comparing to bike and run, for example, while you're running and you're cycling, it's very natural to breathe and then to get the oxygen in, so you are not worried about that part. So if you need to focus on your technique, you can easily say, alright, I'm gonna just breathe and then focus on my foot, on my leg, on the pulling or whatever. And then you go to the swimming. When people start to swim and they don't know the breathing very well, it's really hard for them to say, alright, let me just keep swimming and focus on my hand or my legs, because they have a problem with the most important part, which is breathing. So you cannot keep swimming without breathing. There's no way you're gonna do that. And I think this is one of the key points of when people start to relax and learn the breathing. That's, you can probably Melina can go over more. It's where you can start to teach other things, you know. And then the movement assessment as well that we do here, that goes most probably trying to cover all the movements that we can do. So we ask neck rotations, shoulder rotations, mobility, thoracic, hips, and then a little bit of strength as well, because as Melina said, I see that a lot. I see that people really learn the technique, they try their best effort to do the perfect stroke, and unfortunately it's not very efficient. It's just a beautiful swim. And then you go to the sea, it gets worse, you know. So we try to break down those movements, and I think doing a little bit of a movement assessment, it's gonna help the coach and the athlete to understand what are the weak points of the body that we really need to change, and some things you're not gonna be able to change just swimming more. You really need to work on your strength, your mobility, flexibility, and other details. So I think that's more like how I see that movement.
Yeah. I mean, like, you need to assess if there is effectively a limit initially, like physical limit, because as we said before, the swim is very technical. So that if there is a physical limit, a movement that you're never practiced in your life, now this is the moment, before starting to see if the athlete can go into it or not. And then, as you said, once you see them swimming, you start breaking down what are the prioritize, because this is something that if you have only let's say an online coaching, it's something that is difficult to do, because you give workouts, but the athlete doesn't know which one prioritize. So it's a common practice that we do if we have online athlete, that we receive some videos, so they say, okay, now we're going to focus on this, and you just give workouts to focus on one thing, because it's easy, especially if you're training by yourself, to do one session I'm training on this, one session I do this, and then you're not improving on anything because you haven't figured it out. You're not body aware to make the correction. This is, I think, it's also another thing that happens with beginners, that they are not body aware. They don't know where the body is. So, when you assess the movements and you assess the rotation, you assess the limits of the movement, you understand that this guy might have some issues in the water.
Yeah, no, and with the swimming, particularly with age groupers or those that don't come from a swimming background, one thing that they really do need to work on, and probably don't work on as much as they should, is shoulder mobility. That is a big limiting factor in the swim, and it's something that anytime they go in the gym or anything like that, they should really be doing it, because especially if you think about it on the bike, they're quite tucked in onto the aero bars, and if they never stretch that out, it will affect them. It will affect them in the water. Now, with the one thing that I found with all the athletes that I work with, I always get, when we have the first initial conversation of kind of where they're at and where they want to go, everybody will downplay their swim. Everybody's going to say, I don't swim very well, or and I don't tend to take that at face value anymore. What I aim to do is, if I can't see them swimming, I will request a couple of videos of them, and then give them feedback based on that video, especially if they don't have a lot of body awareness. What really helps is if they see themselves swimming with specific feedback in mind, then they start to see whatever issue it is they have or they're fighting. And then I think it helps them to at least try and correct it that little bit more. But like Joao said, it's all about, you've got to prioritize what's the most important thing, and usually it's got a lot to do with the breath. And until that's sorted, it's hard to get them to correct other things. But it is about just picking one thing and say, right, these are the things that we really need to work on. I don't know, your breathing, your entry, your pull underwater, whatever it is, your body position. But for now, this is what you need to work on, and then gradually try and tick them off. But the other thing that's we should be quite careful with, obviously depending on their level, if they are able to swim a few laps with whatever technique they have, we've got to keep the balance of, okay, you're going to do your technique work, we're going to focus on this thing, but we're still going to get on and swim. Okay, it might not be perfect, and you're probably going to tell them to do a sprint, and the technique will go, everything you've told them will go out the window, and they'll revert back to their old habits. But at the end of the day, even if you have a perfect technique, if you can't hold it for more than a length, it's not much use to you in a triathlon. So you've got to bring your technique and then bring your swim fitness up. Then work on your technique and bring your swim fitness up a little bit. And it's just how you structure those sessions. So if you find that one of your athletes, they can actually hold a decent pace and hold the technique, I don't know, for 50 meters, but then after that, they're kind of holding the pace, but the technique's gone out the window and they're fighting the water, then we just stick to intervals that are up to 50 meters with a short rest, so then they're getting more quality swim, rather than give them 100-meter intervals or 200-meter intervals where they'll get 50 meters of good swimming and 150 meters of just fighting the water. So it's finding that balance, and it's something that I think the athlete needs to understand as well. You have to work on their technique and will still work on the fitness. I think there's a frustration when they start looking at numbers and times and I'm not getting any better and all that stuff. But if they're becoming more efficient, so if you're able to swim the same pace, but it's not costing you as much in energy, that's still a win. Because when it comes to the race, even if your swim isn't faster, you're still going to get on the bike feeling fresher than what you did before.
Yeah, I think the swim. If you compare swimming with everything else, like it is a challenging sport because you are in the water with your head down. You cannot see the movement, and you have to really have a good body awareness, like you say, Tommaso, to understand and to imagine that you most probably are doing the movement that you think that you're doing, and be sure that you're never going to do the way you think. It's not happening. So even if you feel like, oh, today I feel that my hand is really nice, that's probably because you are having a good day of swimming, but I am sure you're not doing exactly what you are imagining. And that this is something that it doesn't come easy. It comes with a lot of time, a lot of practice, a lot of hours of swimming and changing and learning. And people don't know, the beginners, they think that the effort that they put in something, it's gonna represent in few sessions the benefit, right? And it's unfortunately it's not like that. So it's a sport that it's by repetition. Now what Melina is saying is very important because it's not a wrong repetition that's gonna get better. It's the correct repetition. So the best swimmers in the world, pool swimmers, they don't repeat movements if they're wrong. So the coach, they stop them and they don't do anymore. So if you do whatever set you're doing and the technique is going wrong, they stop. Because that means, because they don't want to learn or repeat something wrong, right? Now, with us, as coaches of age groupers, if we always stop when the technique goes wrong, we might have a big problem with the fitness parts. Because then you don't build fitness, right? Because these guys, professional athletes, they start to go wrong after a lot of swimming, right? For us, we have to level down a little bit and understand that my athlete wants to do a sprint triathlon. So he needs to cover 750 meter swim, open water, people around him. Okay, so I have the technique, I have the fitness. How much time we have to prepare this person, how far this person is from a good technique to the race, and then you have to break it down and prioritize. All right, let's build your swim technique over the time, but also don't race because your swim is not perfect, because my friend, it might never be perfect.
You know? This is, you read my mind, because I always tell my athletes, okay, you have unlocked level 2 of swim. You have unlocked, because at the beginning especially, they are monopace. You know, I've been there. You know, I've been training for the swimming for a long time, and now I started swimming, and I have only one pace. You know, slow. So when I say to the athlete, now you have unlocked level 2, normally this is the first thing I see as an improvement. You know, as you know, I give the diagnosis. Okay, you are improving in the swim, because now they can differentiate 2 or 3 paces. Now at the point, he can regulate in a race, for example, because he can start hard and then go steady hard, okay, and then slow down or you know, regroup, but still finishing without, you know, starting super hard and then just dropping down. What is the symptom that you can recognize normally when the athletes, okay, this athlete is improving now in the swim? Is there something specific? Is there something that you look at it?
Well, one, obviously, if we just focus on numbers, obviously it's looking at their pace per 100 meters in the pool. Obviously assessing their technique and how they also perform off the back of a swim. Triathlon is one sport with 3 sort of disciplines within it. So we do in training, there will be times where they will swim, even if it means you're going to do a shorter swim, because I want you to run straight off the back of a swim. So the seeing how well they are in the swim is always relative to the other 2 disciplines as well. Now the other issue is you could be really improving in the pool. And the pool is a great tool. It's very, like Joao said, it's very controlled. It's very good for trying to learn your technique, getting a feel for your speed and all that. But, you know, and I know from myself, I'm never happier when I rock up at my local pool and it's empty and I have a whole pool to myself and I don't have to share a lane, and I'm really happy about that. But I'm not going to race by myself.
Yeah.
So if all you ever do is go and swim in one lane by yourself with nobody else around you, you're going to rock up on race day and you've got, what, I don't know, loads of people around you, and you now have to swim with all those people around you. That's a very different ball game. So, and one thing those who are non-swimmers will always think twice and 3 and 4 and 5 times about going to a group swim. Like, oh, I'm not sure, I'm not fast enough or whatever, and just going, even if you're not one of the fastest ones there, you are gonna swim in a lane with other people. Your hands are gonna bang. You still have to navigate that. There's gonna be a little bit more chop because there's other people there. Your pace might be a little bit slower. It might be a little bit faster because you're kind of drafting a little bit in the pool as well. But that's stuff that does transfer from the pool to the open water. And it's, like I said, as important as the technique is, as important as the fitness is, when it comes to triathlon, being able to deal with all the other stuff involved in the swim, it's very important. And learning things like, I don't know, swallow water and still swim. So you don't get that panicky feeling, what do you do? And that will happen in a group swim, because you're going to turn your head to breathe and someone's feet will be right there and they'll be kicking really hard and you'll take a whole load of water in. So it's all those other things around it. It's not just about the technique. So, and this is where group swimming comes into play as well.
And that's the season of the pool, as we said before. 7:30 on Monday, Blue Wave, book with the PR Performance Studio front desk. Okay.
Good.
30 seconds break and then we come back with some more.
When a person is stressed and they're trying to work on healthier habits, and that's what happens to most of us, is we try to work on healthier habits, but we have certain internal stressors that prevent us from developing those good habits. So we get stressed, and then we stop. So my job is to intervene right at the point where they start and where they stop, so they can continue. So I'm giving them the power and the tools to continue to build these healthy habits long term.
Okay. All right. We're back with Chat with BR Coaches. Swim. How do we understand how fast is an athlete? How do we assess, Melina?
The accepted or widely used test or pace at the moment, we look at the 100-meter pace of the swimmer, and the way to assess that is to try and establish what the critical swim speed is. So the same way that in cycling we've got the FTP, then this is the equivalent of that. And what we're looking for is for the athlete to be able to race as close as possible to that pace, that CSS pace. Because you could have an athlete that has a raw speed of, I don't know, say up there, but their CSS is here. Whereas you could have someone that their raw speed is there, but their CSS is actually a lot closer. So you could have someone that for longer stuff will be faster. The test to establish that effectively involves a time trial, a 200-meter time trial, and a 400-meter time trial. You swim that as fast as you can, and you get as much break in between the two as you can, and then you just you calculate it. There's loads of CSS calculators on the internet that you can use. You just input your time, you input the length of the pool that you're in. It's quite important that you are in a pool that is actually 25 or 50 meters. As we all know in Dubai, there are pools that are 23 meters, 27, 26. At least for your test, try and get to a pool that's accurate. And then from there, you work out what your pace is and you try and do your sessions plus or minus on that one. But that's not the only sort of test you can do. There's lots of other tests. You can basically anything that you can repeat. You can use it as your base measure. And obviously remember that it's a 400 meter swim and a 200 meter swim, whereas triathletes will be swimming minimum 800 or up to 3.8k. So you need to take
you need to factorize the thing. And for an entry level, as you said, once you've seen that this athlete doesn't have many physical issues or limitations, then at that point you calculate the CSS, and then at the point you have the zones, so at least you can start working on, okay, this is your warm-up pace, you need to keep this one, this is your threshold pace, you need to do these sets with this one, and then as you said, we manipulate the rest between the intervals, so at that point, they try to get the CSS as close as possible as to the race pace, or
one
vice
thing
versa.
that we need to keep an eye, well, with summer swimmers or those that don't have much awareness, and like you said earlier, jokingly that I have one speed. Some people may not know while they're swimming, may genuinely have no idea
what's the pace,
what pace they're doing. And obviously with swimming, it's hard to swim and look at your watch and have any feedback. And if there's no pace clock and you don't know how to use the pace clock on poolside, that can affect it. So you can get those, the beeper thing, the CSS beeper that you can wear in your hat, and you can have it beep every 25 meters at a certain pace. So that's a good way of instant feedback, that if you hear the beep as you touch the wall, you know you're doing the pace you're supposed to. If the beep comes before you hit the wall, you know you're too slow. And obviously if the beep comes after, then... So it's a good way to learn what your pace is. That said, like we've had one instance of an athlete that repeated the test twice, but consistently swam a faster pace in the 400 than they did the 200. So it's near enough impossible to work out what the CSS pace. The 200 meter one has got to be faster. But basically they are at a point where they don't have the fitness to carry out that test, or to carry out the test properly. In which case, you just adapt. Like we adapted and we did 10 lots of 100s, and we took the average and we said, well, for now, this is what we're going to work with until you are able to do the test. Otherwise, the test is invalid and it's...
Very good point. It's not for everybody, right?
Yeah, well, I'm glad they came up with the 400s and 200s, because in my times we had the T30. So it's 30 minutes non-stop.
Oh my God.
And we had like that as assessment of your 100 meter pace. And I remember that it was like a race for 30 minutes in the pool. That you have your squad and literally all the names there and the pressure to do that test. I remember it to now, and I'm talking about 30 years ago. And that was the way that they had more data, so they used the T30 test, and then they had the T60 test, and then the T15 test, the T10 test. So basically what I'm saying is you can create a database from basically probably any distance you want, right? Is it 400 meters, 200 meters the best way to assess a 3.8k fitness? Maybe it's not. But why we use? Because we have more data from that assessment. You can compare yourself with more people. The coach can have a better idea of the fitness of the athlete. But if we decide that I want to know my client's pace and I want him to swim 4K every Monday, I'm gonna have enough data, and this is gonna give me a feedback on the athlete, right? People get stuck with the information that they read on the internet, and unfortunately, the more people talk about something, the more looks the only thing that exists. And as a coach, it's our work to explain that this is one way to measure your CSS or your speed. As well, FTP test. You have 60,000 ways to measure your power, right? You can do FTP uphill. You can do 8 minutes. You can do 4 minutes. You can do 1 hour. We use that way because we have more data to compare, and because we believe that for the current fitness of that athlete, that's the best test. And it can move. You can do different, because at some point maybe you're doing 400s and 200s, and then you don't know your 60-minute pace. So if you go for that distance, you might have to do a different test, right? For our athletes that are listening, and for whoever is listening, one important thing is CSS is your max speed per 100 meters for that distance. So there is no way that you're going to improve that speed if you don't swim that level. What's going to happen when you go to that level? Your heart rate going to go as high as that level is required to go. So you cannot improve your max speed without rise your heart rate, right? You can build the aerobic base swimming easier, which is going to help to rise the other zones. So if you have a better aerobic capacity, the zone 3, 4, 5, ideally they get a little bit higher, but I'm never going to be able to swim a critical speed if I don't train at that speed. Just to people don't think that I will improve my speed on the swim without getting tired. You're not gonna do that. You're gonna have to feel tired to improve that speed. And the problem of the beginners and sorry to go a bit long, and people that they are not so used to swim is they don't know how to get tired in the water. They don't like to get tired in the water. So as soon there is a little bit of feeling of, oh my God, this is getting hard, they hold back.
Yeah, no, this is a very good point, and this is something that I mean, you come to the Monday nights, you probably hear me mention it every week in, week out. Most of our athletes, even if they don't come from a sporting background, I'm kind of generalizing, but they'll be more comfortable running and cycling than they are swimming. Like Joao said earlier with the whole breathing thing. They don't train. I'm not asking them to train as swimmers as such, but their approach to swim training, unintentionally, is completely different to how they train for bike and run. So bike and run, you will see them really push themselves. Like if we say, you're going FTP or you're going to do 115% of your FTP, they will push themselves. Put them in the water, and it's like, oh, but I'm not sure, or, and they will hold back. The other thing that I find, obviously I come from a swimming background, so probably a little bit frustrating. On the bike, you say to them, do 8 lots of 4 minutes with 2 minutes recovery. And they will push until the Garmin buzzes to say the 4 minutes are up. And they will take the recovery for 2 minutes, because that's when the watch says I've got to go. You put them in the pool, you give them 15 seconds recovery after every 100, and that'll become 20 seconds. Oh, what's another 5 seconds? Or it will stretch a little bit. And those that don't tumble turn, there is no requirement to tumble turn, but you've got to do a good turn. It's not a case, take your time, touch the wall, sort your goggles, take a breath, see where you are, and then push off. It's got to be a fast turn. Yes, you don't have a turn in the triathlon, but you also don't get a break every 25 meters to catch your breath. So they've got to apply that ethos to swim training too. It's no different, and I think that's something they've really struggled to do, which is why, so banging on about group swim again, but it's good to have a coach there that tells you, right, now you're going. No, stop faffing around, your time's up, go, and then kind of give them the immediate feedback of the time when they get back.
Yeah, in terms of system of coaching for swim, I believe that a combination is the best. So for me, when I see people like I only use the beeper on my sessions, I don't like. Because at some point you need to learn how to pace without the beeper. If you never use, for example, the beeper, you might get some sessions that you think you are moving well and you might not moving well, so you lose the feedback because you probably are tired or you're too fresh. So one of the big issues of triathlon is you do get really heavy legs with bike and run. They become heavy. So I see this during this years of coaching a lot of people to do full Ironman. They start the full Ironman program swimming very well because their legs are fresh. And then it goes week 1, 2, 3. So the bike become 5 hours, the run become 20K, and then the swim starts to like fall apart. And they panic. They literally panic. Like they think they don't know how to swim anymore. But actually it's the overload on the lower part of the body that is really making them struggle to move in the water. So the understanding the process is really important, because what happens is actually when you start to taper that athlete, the swim just come back naturally, and they race and they have their time, and it's amazing. But that period of time when the legs are heavy, it's really hard for them to motivate themselves to go to that pool and hammer a 4K swim session that they know it's going to be slow, it's going to be less than they expected, they don't have the strength, and then the strength comes into, I think, very, very strong on the swim. It's an important part where I also see that women naturally they have less upper body strength than men's. So I see girls that they struggle to do 2-3 push-ups or even 2-3 pull-ups on the strength session, and there is a direct relation with the strength on the pool.
No, agreed. And I mean, just to touch back on the heavy legs and stuff, that's clearly, it's just an awareness thing that, your legs are tired, so it's probably affecting your body position in the water, and hence it's making it harder. Which is why, although as the load increases in training, we do have to accept that that's there, it's always suggested or recommended, I guess, if logistically it's possible, especially if you're not a particularly strong swimmer, if logistically it's possible for you to do your swim first in the day, if there's a bike in the run, it's better than doing your run or your bike and then jumping straight in the pool, because if your technique isn't quite there, the heavy legs are going to make it struggle. But it is, like Joao said, it's about them knowing that, it's okay, that this is the reason why, and gradually it will come back. Thankfully, we start the race with the swim, so you're not going to do the bike and run first and then.
Otherwise, we would win all the races.
That's true. That's what I need.
I think that's why they made this way, and safety reasons as well.
We forgive you for going long, okay?
Yes.
Pretty good list of things, okay? So athletes must memorize that it's advised to go and get the swim done in the morning, okay? The first thing that you do, because then it's replicating race, all these kind of things, okay? Get the strength done, also because it's gonna help during your journey to a long distance race. Don't focus too much on the, let's say, the marketing of different, testing and assessing, because your coach will find the one that you need in the moment of training, in the block of training. And hit for the summer.
So I think here is where we can also be smart, because ideally we want to put the swim earlier, but now with the weather, so we don't want our clients to run at 4 p.m. because they swim in the morning, right? So just be smart on the way you split your sessions, because knowing that, for example, Tuesday you have a heavy bike, and if you have to swim the day before, right? And run the day before. So ideally, I would do the run first and compromise a little bit the swim, and swim more tired because the next day I have a 5 a.m. bike. So I think just play smart on the choice that you do because of the weather. I think Melina said according to your logistics.
Yeah.
Right. Don't say all my swims from today it's morning.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Yeah, because you might be compromising the schedule. I think that's a smart choice, and you need to learn what you can do. For example, now we're doing the Monday evening swim, and then the next morning is amazing because you have a 5 a.m. bike, right? With time, that combination will increase your fitness.
Yeah,
It will increase.
It's almost back to back.
Yes.
Okay, let's take 30 seconds break. We come back with the questions and the conclusions. We are back with Chat with BR Coaches. The latest service that we launched is the BR Fuel Station. So basically our athletes, they have a 20% discount on ordering the food, the nutrition, the fuel that we're using here at BR. We are partnered with the sponsor and Stealth. So plenty of options there also for vegans, vegetarians and omnivores. So you have everything there. Yeah, it's true. I read the brochure.
Yes,
I'm prepared on that.
sure.
So the people that are gonna get the giveaway this week are Dima, who asked, is there a specific technique that triathletes should stick, or is it not one size fits all? Melina.
It's definitely not one size fits all, that's for sure. At the end of the day, we spoke about earlier on about like the movement assessment. There might be certain stuff that physically might be a bit of a limiter for you. Especially if you're carrying any injuries or anything like that. So we kind of work with what we've got. And also it's a lot to do with, triathlon's open water. So what's more important is that you are able to adapt your stroke to the conditions that are given to you. For example, if it's, if the swim is really flat and calm, you can really focus on a really nice long stroke, glide a little bit. But if it's really, really choppy, it's a long glide just isn't going to work. So what you really want there, you want to bring your cadence up a little bit and make the stroke shorter to help you through the choppy water and the waves. So no, it's definitely not a one size fits all. You work with what you've got and the conditions that you're given. And just to make very quickly a very important point, like with people that there's lots of stuff on YouTube, there's lots of stuff on the internet. It's great to watch swimmers, like Olympic level swimmers, how they swim and how they move through the water. But don't compare yourself to that, and to a point, don't aim for that. They swim loads of hours practicing lots of things, and you look at Michael Phelps, and he's really tall, big feet, big hands, and ridiculous wingspan. You're not gonna get that. So don't look at them and think this is what I'm aiming for. Effectively, they are swimming sprints compared to what a triathlete's gonna do. So they have a really high leg kick and all that stuff. So yeah, it's great to watch and learn, but be careful, be picky with what you actually take on board.
We are live now,
Yeah.
okay?
Okay.
So I can see Mo is online,
Hello,
okay?
Mo.
Morning coaches, yes, good. And so as we said, this is a giveaway moment, and Melina just answered to Dima, to her question, and you're gonna hear the full answer in the podcast, so you need to watch the episode, okay? As well
We're
as
gonna have to
Mo.
watch, yeah.
What was Mo asking?
He was asking about the heart rate and the CSS.
Yes,
that we
okay.
spoke about.
Yeah, we spoke about, so also you, Mo, you're gonna get your giveaway, and you need to watch the episode to know
But
the
Mo
answer.
has more
food than BR has at his home. So I don't think he needs any extra nutrition. But I will talk to him about.
Yes. So the giveaway for Dima is going to be a weekend nutrition. Okay. So she's going to be covered for that. And as we said before, we have 20% discount for our athlete who are buying through the BR fuel station, new service, the packages, and they're going to have a 20% discount.
Yeah, so basically they can buy, order the food, the nutrition that they need for the weekend or the week. And we're going to create the race package, nutrition package, and we're going to create the weekend nutrition pack, so they can order few combo supplements or nutrition. And basically, if you compare a 100 meters runner with a marathon runner, you're gonna have a lot of difference on the technique, right? So you cannot compare 50-meter swimmer with triathlete. So I think that's the mindset that people need to understand when you see a video. So if you see Usain Bolt running and you see Kipchoge running, they run very different, right?
But they're almost fast as
But they are very, very good in what they do. And then if you see a 50 meters sprinter that's gonna take 20 seconds to run, to swim 50 meters.
Yeah.
And then you have open water swimmer. They have a different technique. They have a different arm rotation, leg kick.
Yeah.
So just remember that it is swimming that you are watching, but they are doing different
context.
Yeah, and it's almost a different sport, because when you change the distance, you change the technique and the way things do. So just being aware that you are looking for a person doing a different movement that you should be doing.
And
Don't compare.
And just to touch on the fact that they said it is a different sport, it definitely is. Like from pool sprint swimming to open water swimming is different, but both of those are still different from triathlon.
Yes.
The open water swimmer just has to swim. You have to swim in the open water and have energy to bike and run. The runners, you know, Kipchoge's a marathon runner, but he's not a triathlete. He doesn't have to do that off the back of a bike. So always keep in mind that the sport that you're doing and the context that you have to do it in.
Okay, guys, I think we had it all. Okay, let's just wrap up. Okay, that's what we do here at BR. We assess the athlete. We put them in the condition that they can prioritize what they have to work on. Okay, and then from there we continuously assess the athlete in order to have them doing the best race they can do. We talked about CSS. We talked about working on technique. We talked about working on swim fitness, let's say. And we talked about the new service that we have at BR. So on Monday evening at 7:30, we were swimming at Blue Wave with a coach session. So you need to book this one with BR front desk. It's open to our athletes, but it's also open to non-members. And then speaking about services, okay, on Wednesday track, BR Track Wednesday, we have Coach Martyn that is providing support and coaching for our runners. Okay, so this is also a new service that you need to book with front desk.
Which is also a separate package than this.
Yes, and there as well we are partnered with our fueling friends, so Sponsor and Stealth, and our athletes have 20% discount. Guys, it was a pleasure. Okay, the art of coaching is building up with every small arts there. It's becoming bigger and bigger. Let us know what you think about this episode. Drop us an email, Instagram, and you can follow us on theperformancestudios.com and the blog. You find all the links in the bio.
Thank you. Bye guys. See you next week.